So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Christmas wrap up of the Social Housing Roundtable. To those just listening in, or those who are new to Spotify, my name is Matthew Baird. I've been running these now for nearly 3 years. We did 48 last year, done 45 this year. There will be a time I get to 50, but doing that many for when they're all kind of done voluntarily has been a lot. But it's nice to see some regular faces back, and some faces who came to a lot kind of over the last 2-3 years. So thank you all for joining. I'm going to try and share screen. As I mentioned in the brief thing before we started, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm going to try and get this done because I don't do the share screen bit. So let me try and get this going, and then if I go into there and there and oh, that listening. It's also more difficult when I'm trying to do both. Is that working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. Matt can pretend like he knows what he's doing. No, wonderful. Yeah, it's a bit of an overview really of what's gone on this year, some of the key findings, and then a bit of a, like I say, a bit of a quiz at the end. But firstly, just thank you to everybody who's been able to attend over the course of this year. It's been something that I was wondering like how well it would run, but when we started this, during COVID, and it's lovely to see such a community have grown. So some key stats, if I can, there we are. So as I mentioned, we've done 45 roundtables in 2023. We've had 64 speakers, which has been amazing. And I thank each and every single one of them for the time that they've given to it. I'm going through at the moment trying to message everybody who is registered for an event, not necessarily attended, but actually registered. And the moment that mailing list is over 1,400 people, which is just wild unto itself. So that's been amazing to see. There are now 763 people registered for either the mailing list or the LinkedIn group. There was an award nomination for the Housing Heroes Awards, which was amazing. Thank you to Emily Orme and to Laura Oye-Daly for that. The highest attendees of one session this year was 67, and the most that's been watched back, which we'll come on to shortly, was 153 views. The most downloaded in a week was 42 downloads. In terms of conferences, I've been at the CIH Southwest Conference, which I was asked to present at, the Housing Plus Academy, Housemarque, HQN, and UK Care Week. On average, we've had 63 people register on average for each event this year, 39 registering for the actual Zoom link, again on average, and 26 people per session. Some of those have gone way beyond 100. Some have been much smaller. Partly to do with time of year, partly to do with topic, which I'll come on to shortly. One live event at Housing 2023, where there were 46 of us in a room, which was brilliant. Thank you very much to Big Picture Training, to Alertical for sponsoring that alongside District 4. But it was an interesting one trying to manage that many people. But the hour and a half we had certainly flew by. And there's one article in Inside Housing right back at the beginning of the year. That is not changing page. There we are. So sessions and learning. So just a bit of an overview, really. The top 10 that were listened to, this is either via Spotify, Amazon, or YouTube. The top 10 sessions this year based on those were the Seeking New Ways to Work with Tenants, the Better Social Housing Review, the Housing Ombudsman Spotlight with Kim, which was done by Claire Patterson, Embedding Inclusion as a Service Design Principle, Empowering the Future, Shaping Housing Leaders of Tomorrow, Engaging with Disengaged Social Housing Staff, Tenant Engagement versus Tenant Influence, the Community Effect of Supported Housing ASB, Board Assurance versus Reassurance, and Transforming Housing Management. So I think what was really interesting when I was looking through this was certainly on the listen backs, and this is different for in terms of attendees, which we'll come on to in a moment. A lot of it was focused around tenants. A lot of it was focused on the future. But that narrative around kind of tenants and the community effect and housing management is certainly the ones that people keep going back to. When I was looking through the stats of those listened to, that was certainly interesting to see, and I think probably tells a lot about where housing is at the moment, and actually what people want to be doing is going, how do we engage with our tenants better? Compare that though to attendance was again different. So this isn't in order of 1 to 10. This was just me going through almost chronologically, to be honest with you. So don't take the order as writ, but a blueprint for partnerships between health and housing, back to basics, which was TSMs and performance management frameworks, transforming housing management, that macro to micro community services, talking about ED&I, again, board assurance versus reassurance, that was very well attended and listened back to. Empowering the Future, Shaping Housing Leaders of Tomorrow, Sector Risk 2023, which we'll be doing at the beginning of January, which I'll come on to shortly. discovering and supporting ADHD in the workplace, the Better Social Housing Review, again in there, and then tenant engagement versus tenant influence. So what's interesting when I was looking at the difference between the two in terms of those that are continually listened back to and those that attended on the day, is that the attendance on the day is really varied. It can be, like I said, we've got sector risk, we've got ADHD, we've got tenants, we've got ED&I, we've got community services. And although it's similar in terms of the narrative that's gone through, I think what was really sticking out to me was actually those that keep going back to listen to the sessions and maybe listen to them 2 or 3 times, to those that are really focused on the tenant side. But that, when putting on a session, it could be, anybody and everybody on the day. And certainly when I was looking at stuff like ADHD and the other one, which was transforming housing management, the macro to micro, a lot of that also came down to the speakers' individual networks. And so that was really interesting to see. I did a load of polls this year. I've only kind of gone through some of them which had over 100 votes, but some really, really interesting stats from some of those. So as you can see, 36%, well, we did one which was whether or not CEOs should have a time limit. 36% of those 290 votes said that yes, you should reapply every 6 years, and the others said there should just be a 6-year time limit. There was also an option for no, and there was an option for 9 years, but they didn't score as highly. On a poll around burnout, 67% believed that burnout was cultural in housing. 70% of people believed that social housing needed a regulatory EDI policy, because they didn't feel that, and again, these were all related to roundtables that we ran, but the idea behind regulatory is that we've talked for years and it's not actually making enough of a difference. When done on a recruitment focus, 60% believed that a little editing by a recruiter was fine, but they didn't want too much. 47% believed asset management was the area most in need of tech. 65% said 0 to 10% of their social housing leadership actually had any lived experience of social housing, which is a massive stat to pull out on the day. And I think really showcases actually the importance of having people running businesses, or at least in leadership teams, who understand what it's like to be or to have lived in social housing. 54% of 206 votes said it would take a pay rise to discount all alternative job offers in 2023. And that was an interesting one. And I think that will have changed by the time I run that this year. That was taken back in about March, April time. And pay was, and still is, an absolutely huge contributing factor. But I'd be interested to see whether that shifted towards culture now. And 48% of 294 votes, which is our highest attended poll of the year, said there shouldn't be a salary cap for social housing executives. So 31% of people said yes to executives that weren't chief execs, which was an interesting stat to see. But the idea that we just have to attract the best talent is still there, and that a cap won't help. And yet, weirdly, as I say, later in the year when I ran one on CEOs and whether or not there should be a banding in terms of a limit, then that was highly voted in terms of yes. I wanted to just give a bit of a shout out to some powerful sessions that weren't always necessarily the most attended or the most watched back. I think it was interesting sometimes to see some of the stats around the ED&I or the more diverse or roundtables that we ran on this year. They weren't always the best attended. I think it's interesting that actually those topics, which I would sometimes deem as the most powerful, or the ones that we need to get the most voices listening to, that aren't always about the day-to-day narrative. There was certainly a breakdown there in terms of amount of listeners or amount of people watching it, or amount of people attending it, and those who and the session number, the session itself. The difference certainly between something like the Better Social Housing Review or housing management compared to staff trauma, there were big differences. And that's a real shame, because I think actually when you're looking at culture, these topics in particular really stood out as ones to attend. Mind you, that narrative around culture and change was huge this year. So as I said, I've put the dates on there. So 31st of January, tenant engagement versus tenant influence was a really, really important session. 28th of February, domestic violence and no recourse to public funds. I recall sitting through that and being absolutely stunned at actually the support that is out there for people with no recourse to public funds, but it's getting the word out there about it. 28th of March, lived experience. 4th of April, homelessness and trauma. 11th of April, Windrush. 13th of June, a benefit nobody wants to be entitled to is about parental bereavement leave and how that looks. 4th of July, supporting customers who are going through crisis. 1st of August, we need to talk about ED&I. 15th, a deeper look at staff trauma. 7th of November, the silent pandemic, suicide in social housing. And then 12th of December, creating LGBTQIA inclusive workspaces and services. So if you are looking for stuff to listen to over the Christmas period to bring you down a bit, I obviously talk in jest, but if there are some really important listens out there that I would really recommend going back to. So some learnings. Firstly, and he's here today, Tony Bradley does not miss a session. I think I was looking through the stats, and about 95% of the sessions this year you attended. So big thank you to you, Tony. And it always comes on the first thing every single time. Good morning, Matt, before we start a session. So massive thank you to that. And Adam Mansell genuinely wasn't far behind. I can't see the participants to see whether or not Adam's in the room with us today, but he certainly attended an awful lot this year. So thank you to you, but also thank you to everybody. The amount of people attending, over 50%, which is what I was going to do a list of, went on and on and on. I couldn't have fit it into a slide. So a huge thank you to everybody who's been able to attend, many of them this year. The word of the year was definitely culture. It came up in nearly every single session. It was something that I found really, really powerful to kind of look through and talk about this year. And certainly not just regards to recruitment, but the desire and the wish to see change is probably larger than it's ever been. But people are struggling to do that when they aren't necessarily the leaders or the chief execs of a business. As I said, the sector wants and needs change, but there are questions over leadership. There are questions over why the same things keep happening, over why, these stories that we heard this year, they weren't surprising. They weren't something that I think anybody was particularly shocked by, but they are still there. When I did that last slide, I had a thought about that kind of safety and authenticity, and that came up a lot when I was speaking to people who are new to the sector or who want to join it, particularly the younger generation. They want to see housing talking about the differences they're making, but also that it is an area where stuff along the lines of everything I discussed in that last slide, there is policy around it, or there's an awareness around mental health or LGBTQ or trauma or anything that we discussed through the course of the last 12 months. Similarly, the sector must do more to promote its voice. This is one that I can't shout about enough, and I've tried, but I'm trying to do my bit. But we need more people standing up and going, we are doing great work, we are making a change, we are supporting our tenants, but being mindful to phrase that in a way that goes, we know that a lot of the work we're doing isn't always good enough, but actually there's a lot that is. Because if we're not doing that, people are never going to come join the sector, and the voice. I think at the moment housing is probably more in the news than it's ever been in the time that I've been involved in the sector, and we need to make sure that narrative is attracting people to it, but also trying to attract money and going, actually, if you give us XYZ in funding, there is change that can be made, and this is what we're already doing with the small funding that we have got at times. Accountability was probably the close second in terms of word of the year, and I think this is something that a lot of people working in housing, leading housing organisations, or indeed living in social housing want to see, and that's accountability. I was talking to a chief exec who mentioned that actually there is a chief exec WhatsApp group that was set up by another firm, and said sometimes the stuff you read in there can be quite horrifying. I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to say anything more than that on it, but actually sometimes this idea of going, oh, it's someone else's fault, or we just, if we ignore it, it'll pass, and all this kind of mindset is exactly what we all see all the time. And there needs to be more accountability from chief execs and leaders in the sector. I recall going to an event run by Alerticall earlier this year, a brilliant business if you don't know them, and one I definitely recommend checking out. But Greg Reed from Places for People was there talking, and he said the one thing we need is less whiny CEOs and more who are going to do something to fix the problem. And it was just lovely to hear a chief exec say that, and it ruffled some feathers, and I think it upset some people, but it's certainly something I can see them trying to do to make change. The next point is that tenants are only going to get louder, and we need to embrace that. To anyone who I haven't kind of talked about the stat, I was the host of, as I mentioned earlier, the host of the CIH Southwest Conference, and the housing ombudsman were there, and they were talking about their dispute resolution team. And in 12 months, they've gone from a team of around 24 people to over 200. It is mad how large their team has grown. A lot of the people on that team are ex-housing, the majority are. But the reason for that is because of the amount of people, the amount of disputes coming through, the amount of questions coming through, and rightfully so into the sector. And the tenant voice is getting louder. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes there are problematic tenants. Let's not get away from that. But equally, the days of just ignoring it and hoping it goes away are so long gone. And if you're not willing to kind of move with those times, then I genuinely kind of suggest, unfortunately, well, it's time to move out the sector and let people who want to embrace those voices and work with those voices to lead our businesses going forward. And finally, pressures are only going to increase. I remember saying last year that I thought 2023 was going to be an incredibly difficult year for housing. So it has proven to be. I don't think next year is going to be any easier. With elections coming, with everything else coming through, housing is going to be even more on the agenda than maybe it's been before. And from everyone I've spoken through the roundtable this year, everything has been cumulative. It hasn't just been oh, this is something new that's affected. We've seen damp and mold coming for years. We've seen customer complaints rising for years. We've seen everything that's coming, growing. Now is the time where you have to be able to kind of go, yes, we know this is wrong. Let's take accountability, and this is what we'll do to fix it. And those are the businesses that are going to get the most respect, but also the businesses that are going to attract the best people. And so that'd be my certainly story for the future is, be aware that these are changes that, I think the TSMs are going to highlight a lot of it. Those pressures are going to rise. However, that doesn't mean there's nothing you can do about it. And putting your head in the sand isn't going to help anybody at all. So 2024, because there's a few points in the chat, and I want to invite a couple of people who want to chat to come in. So this is what's already booked in for next year. So we'll start January with the risk assessment 2024. Becky Tucker's coming back to do that, which will be brilliant. We'll have a session on hoarding, on psychologically informed approaches. The chief exec of Wish is going to come along to talk about her voice campaign. We've got business coming on, talk about skipping tenants based on affordability and what you can actually do to support tenants who maybe don't always pass your affordability checks. Culture and stigma in DLOs is going to be a session run by HQN. Really looking forward to that one. Managing reputational issues, solutions to tech solutions, housing and the built environment, digitalizing compliance management, and creating a psychologically safe culture. I think we're almost Q1 already, which is mad. But I'm really delighted to say that the Walsall Housing Group are going to be sponsoring 4 sessions next year based on health, and the CIH are going to be sponsoring some sessions as well to just try and kind of talk about some of those wider things that are going on throughout the sector, which is brilliant. So I'm going to go to the chat quickly. I'll leave that up for a moment. To those who aren't already registered, that is the QR code that will take you to the registration link, to the YouTube channel, to the Spotify channel, to my email address if you want to drop me a message about anything at all. So all of those are available. I can see on the chat there, Andrew, agree, Matt, those powerful sessions had a big impact on the way I work. That's fantastic to hear. The Social Housing Roundtable is one of the few platforms that is openly discussing the topics that really need the most attention. It's brilliant, and I love it, but there's always never seemingly enough time because there's always more topics that need to be discussed, and yet we just get 1 session a week. And and Gabby Wolfer Inc. I've been away from the sector for a bit, and in part that's because I mentioned burnout and frustration with the state of play and the continuous similar conversations. And in a way, this overview highlights we're still having those same conversations, but at the same time, I do see some glimmers of hope, and I couldn't agree more. That we're reaching until here and no further, change needs to happen. And I hope that's because we now see a new generation in leadership emerging that shares my own frustration. Thanks to initiatives like this, giving them the networks and platforms they need to give them to confidence to speak and act up against the status quo. Just ignoring it won't go away. I'm going to stop the share just for a minute while I load up the other one for the quiz. But I hope that kind of gave a very brief overview and snapshot. If anyone would like to kind of have any input or let me know their thoughts on any of the sessions they've attended this year or on what they'd like to see from the roundtable next year, please do dive in. Though, Tony, I'm going to go to you first, just as what's made, and I'm not saying this from an egotistical point of view, more from an interest point. What's made you keep coming back? Because you've been to such a variety of sessions, Tony. You've just muted yourself. You've been to such a variety of sessions. You're still on mute. You're still on mute. Even today.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. It's to keep up to date with general thinking within housing and what are the issues that are emerging and how the current issues being dealt with.
Were there any that stood out to you this year?
Ooh,
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, the one about death in social housing was a very, very moving one. That was traumatic, I think, for quite a few people. And I think I put a comment to you that was a very powerful table. But generally, it's making contacts with other people as well. So I look at it, I enjoy it. I put an hour away each week to join the round table.
I certainly appreciate it. It's one of those. I don't know. I mean, I know Anna, Hazel, Michelle. I can see. I know Claire. You've not been to as many as you wanted this year, but I know you've been to. You were our lead person of 2023, so you did your like quota in last year. You're fine.
Just work pressures, isn't it? Unfortunately, the thing that dies when you're in your busy times is your self-development and the things you like to do to keep in touch. That's what tends to fall off the end of the list.
What was amazing, actually, I heard this the other week, was that Settle Group, one of their guys over there has enjoyed the roundtable, enjoyed it. So now they're using the roundtable as part, because they have to have a certain amount of hours a year in terms of continuous professional development. And they've signed off on the roundtable being part of that. And I couldn't be prouder of that, going, actually, you know what? That's the point, though, because these conversations aren't just tokenistic. It isn't. There's never just a case of, oh, let's just have a chat about whatever. There's a definite need for change there. Anna, I can see you've come off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that, yeah, I definitely haven't been able to attend all of the sessions I would have liked to. But for me, I think this year has shown a lot of the blurring of the lines between what in years gone by would have been, oh, that's a health issue, that's a social care issue, that's a someone else's issue. And actually having a forum that brings in that little bits of crossover to other sectors and things as well. And you can really get an appreciation of how other people are navigating that journey within those blurred lines is the really useful bit for me.
Great. It's really weird running the session on this when I'm the one that runs the roundtable. I don't really know. I haven't got a co-host. It's a bit of a funny one. Are there any sessions that people who are here today would like to see come up next year? Is there anything that they're kind of going, actually, even if they don't want to run the session themselves, but conversationally they'd like to see come up?
I think it'd be good to get after the TSMs have been submitted later on in the year, something around that, because as we know, there's no room for manoeuvre with them. The answers are set, so there's no so it'd be interesting to see how that grows in the future, because there's no kind of background or context to the answers people are giving. So just to see how that might expand, and it's obviously a big deal for everyone at the moment. So yeah, something I think that'd be quite interesting, and see how they're going to, because as you say, the tenants' voice is getting louder. So how that's going to then progress in the future.
Absolutely, no worries with that. I think it was an interesting one when Grand Union came on and did a bit of a chat about it and actually said, we could manipulate our stats to be XYZ, but these are the honest stats. And I'm hoping people are honest, but I just expect that maybe a couple might fudge a couple, but we'll see. Anybody else at all?
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said earlier about culture, Matt, actually. I think that culture, I don't know if that's true for everyone, that's certainly true for me, that I've realised that culture is actually at least half the reason I come to work. You know, being paid more is not necessarily the be all and end all. And I don't think it's true of the housing industry like it is for other industries, because most people come into housing not to earn a huge amount of money. We don't all come in for personal financial reward. And we don't stay in it for that reason.
And that's absolutely true. I think the days of people moving for 1,000 or 2,000 are gone. I think there is still a thing for some businesses really paying high, and others that don't have those kind of funds that do it, depending on the size of the business. And that's going to be a challenge, because evidently people are moving for jobs that are paying 10 grand more, even if they don't know the culture. But the amount of people I know in leadership positions, management positions, and certainly kind of down to your officer level, who have said to me over and over, like, actually, I don't like where I am. It isn't about the money. I just don't like. I'm trying to make this
about how it feels,
place, but I don't want to be here anymore. And it's really hard. And actually, a lot of that's happened post mergers. A lot of people have been through mergers or have been through acquisitions in terms of their business, have been acquired by a bigger business, and they feel they've lost that community feel about what they used to do, and they feel like the job they were doing, the reason they're stuck in the sector, is gone.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I did some training this week with my job, and it's about project management, I think. And I've came out of that feeling that every housing association is actually very, very similar nowadays. It's really hard to see the difference in organisations. You used to be able to notice all the people, and you used to be able to get a feel for the organisation's culture very clearly because they were so connected with what they did. But now every organisation is broadly the same.
Certainly in the way that they deliver themselves on social media and on their websites. I couldn't agree more. It's almost like we've built a bit of a template.
We've
people
blandified ourselves. It's not a word, but you know what I mean.
No, I do, and I think there's some still out there that don't realise the stuff that they should be selling on or advertising. And I did some work. I mean, I'm co-chair of the board for Spring, which is a small housing charity in Birmingham, and they'll talk, you know, in their job packs about the amazing work they're doing, and you can find some stuff on the website, but actually the stuff that would attract candidates wasn't being seen. So we're going through a big help there. And it's that idea of actually, what are you doing in your communities? Who have you actually helped this year? What differences have you actually made? And when it comes to your business, do you have an EDI policy? Are you actually representative of the community you're serving in some way? Are you proud of that? Are you proud of the fact that you're making a difference day to day to the individual rather than necessarily to the whole? And it's not always doable, but certainly I think there needs to be more focus on that, because then I think you will start to see, Claire, which businesses are doing what, but it takes you to actually invest the money in it to do it in the first place. Any other people who've got ideas for next year, or if they've been to roundtables this year, any feedback they'd like to provide?
Yeah, I think, Matt, for me, it is still around culture. That's going to be massive anyway. And I think because it's such a complex world of cultural change, it's got to be looked at a different social psychological perspective as well. You know, we had a session on, I can't remember which housing association, they was doing a test of self-authoring or self-regulated teams. I think it was Believe perhaps, but now I believe that is no longer happening. That kind of fell apart, but there is actually real value in that. People don't come to work to do a poor job. And I think, you know, sometimes that leaders, or not leaders, bad bosses, tend to treat their team as children. We're all adults here. We all have that voice that Tracy will come in and bring to the session next year. But I think there needs to be more systemic looking at the culture and where some of the issues are actually come from. And perhaps that's where we can identify where we need to change a bit more.
And also how the money is spent. And I think that's sometimes where some of the frustrations came through on some of the executive polls that I put out this year, which were intentionally, don't get me wrong, intentionally meant to be a little bit not necessarily confrontational, but controversial. But I think it came from, well, you know, we're in the news because we're failing, and yet our chief exec is on this much money, or our director's on this much money. It's hard to understand how that narrative is continuing through, particularly when there's also a lot of people, a lot of leaders in housing. There's people in this room who have been heads of service, assistant directors, service leads, service managers, whatever it will be, going, I'd love to be given a chance to really step up another level and make difference, but those roles aren't coming up. Or they want people who've got other experiences, and going, well, actually, these are people who care. Let's get their voice louder and do something about it. So there's a point from Andrew in the chat there. I've moved around housing over the last few years. Each company I've left or joined goes through a merger. The social backbone of housing is gone. You left housing for 10 months though and hated it, and it does pull you back in. I think this is the thing. Like, you don't want to leave it, Andrea, do you? And so it's that thing of we're stuck in it for a reason. We love it, but sometimes it's a bit of a poison chalice. I'm going to quickly throw up some questions for this quiz. I haven't done a quiz in years. I used to write one every single week for the university, and I was like, if I make this too complicated, then people are going to go mad and all leave. So it's just a bit of fun. I'll stick on the first round's anagram, so you're going to hate me for that anyway, so that's fine. So how do I pull this back up? Is it that one? Hey, So I don't know, I'll find a bit of a song or something to put in the background as well. But there's some anagrams while we're chatting, and you can have a look through and see if any of those make any sense to you. If you want to team up with someone in the room, if you know them, feel free. I'm not going to know. Share ideas. It's all good. People just said they can't make it. So yeah, if any of those do make sense to you, then you're probably better than I am, because I've struggled to find them, to be honest with you, but that was fine. It's easy when you write them because you think, well, that's quite obvious. But what was that? Sorry?
Your screens disappeared. The questions have gone, so we can see your other screens.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh God, thank you very much. That's bizarre. How do I? Right, let's go and see if I can let people in the other way.
But these are all Christmas related, I take it, yeah?
These are Christmas related, yeah.
Okay.
The Christmas food, Christmas song.
Yeah.
General was something Christmas related. A Christmas character was fine. Yeah, so they're all Christmas related. See you later, Amy. No problem at all.
Bye. See you soon. Have a wonderful Christmas. Bye.
And you take care. I know Gabby's had to go as well, but I knew the quiz had 10 people running. That's absolutely fine. But yes, if any of those, then you're doing better than I am. It's one of those, isn't it? You try and do a Christmas quiz, and there is more of a general knowledge bit coming up. So if you don't worry, like I won't just sit you with your face is like, I hate you a little bit.
I was worried it would all be housing related, to be honest.
No, there's 5 housing questions coming next.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, but they're multiple choice.
Put in, Matt. I best go.
They're multiple choice. So
Okay.
you can kind of go. It'd be interesting to see which way people vote on those.
Oh,
This is hard.
I know. I was going to say, if anyone wants to put any hints in the chat, gratefully appreciated.
Has anybody got any so far?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, Tony, which one have you got?
Number 1, gingerbread.
Gingerbread. There it is. Go on, Tony.
Pigs in blankets for number 2.
Oh, yeah,
Pigs in blankets. There we are on a roll now.
Number 3, Christmas time.
Christmas time. Yes. Help if I've written. Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. No, 3 is not Christmas time. No.
Okay.
Sorry. No, number 3 is not at Christmas time. The word Christmas is in there. You're close. People now crossing out the letters.
Yeah.
I'm very quiet.
Too much brain work for the week of Christmas.
Christmas tree.
Oh, Christmas tree. There we are.
Where's the O?
That's it. Any others? Anybody got any of the rest? I will put you out your miseries if you like, because I think people are getting.
Archie armpits. I mean, what is that?
You got any, Hazel? You came off mute. I thought you had an answer there.
Yeah, I've got Santa Baby for number 10.
Yes.
Find decorations.
Yes, decorations for 9. Nicely done. Who knew it was an anagram of coordinates? So we got 5, 6, 7, 8. It's not a step song.
I think I've got number 6.
Oh
Is
yeah,
it Christmas party?
it's Christmas party. Shockingly, I didn't come up with these myself. Yeah, 5, 7, 8, 7 and 8. Interesting. 5 was a tough one, to be fair. Five might be a place that you go. You might take the kids.
Winter Wonderland.
Winter Wonderland. Number 8, there are 3 of them. I think there were 3.
Wise men?
Shepherds.
Shepherds. There you are, Clay had a 50-50 chance.
A sheep?
And 7, the big man himself.
Father Christmas.
It's Father Christmas. There we are. Oh, that was, I'm sure you all enjoyed that. Right, I'm gonna, oh, Emma's just in the waiting room. Okay, round 2. It's time to go into housing. Here we go. Some of this is going to make you feel really sad. I'm just letting you know in advance. So question 1. I should have done a poll or something. You could have voted. In 2022, 21,534 new homes started building in Scotland. How many homes were started in 2023? So do we think there's more or less from the previous year? So was it 16,274? Was it 19,541? Was it 22,132? Was it 25,978? Jot down an answer. We'll go through at the end. We'll see who's got like the majority answer and who's going where. Question 2. To the nearest 1,000, how many complaints have the Ombudsman reported receiving between 22 and 23? 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 or 8,000? They're not all negative, by the way. They're not all going to make us go, God, housing's a mess. 3, by what increase has the RSH reported in homes for affordable rent in 2023? So the amount of homes being built for affordable rent. 25,000, 29,000, 32,000 or 34,000? Number 4. How much has the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund been allocated in the latest review? 750 million, 900 million, 1.05 billion or 1.25 billion? Finally, when did the UK first start building social housing? And that's in its current guise. 1916, 1919, 1942 or 1946? Now, I'm not gonna lie, when I was trying to come up with these questions, trying to find on Google anything positive social housing, sticking a quiz was hard. So hence me going back to something like that. So just 5 questions on the multiple choice. So I don't know if you want to stick it in the chat or just shout it out, I don't mind. But for question A, so in 2022, 21,534 new homes started building in Scotland. How many new homes were started in 2023? What are people thinking?
I've guessed B. I have no idea, in fairness, on that one.
19,541.
Yeah.
I put B.
Any votes on B? Oh, sorry, Michelle, couldn't hear you there.
Said C, but it was a guess.
Unfortunately, it's A.
A.
16,274. So it's a significant drop. But hey, it's been reported on, so hopefully that'll change. That's the optimism. To the nearest 1,000, how many complaints have the Ombudsman reported? 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 or 8,000? Michelle's gone
D.
5. Denise has gone 5.
D. Yeah.
4,
D.
8. Bit of a,
5.
It's 5,000. Was 5. So again, mind you, this is exactly why they've increased their staff numbers so high. So number 3, by what increase as the RSH reported in homes for affordable rent in 2023? 25,000, 29,000, 32,000 or 34,000? Any thoughts?
B.
I went A.
B.
I
29.
went C, but again, it was a guess.
Yeah.
I went D.
It is D. It's 34,000.
Wow.
So unfortunately, the affordable rent went up, but affordable to purchase went down. Make of that what you will. For the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund has been allocated. How much? This was all over the news, so maybe this one you'll have a better chance with. Thoughts? No thoughts. It's D. It's 1.25 billion. So it's been given a hefty bit of cash. And I guess finally, when did the UK first start building social housing? 1916, 1919, 1942 or 1996?
B.
46.
I went C. Not really sure.
It was B. It was 1919, just after the First World War. Originally, it was designed for people coming back. So
That's the heroes.
there you are, 1919. Right. Goodness me, what have we got next? Even I can't remember. Right, general knowledge. I think this is the round Sophie was waiting for. I can't see everybody sing at the moment, so I'm assuming Sophie's still in the room.
I'm here.
There we are. Bet you're delighted. I might put you on that screen, then I can see you. Right, general knowledge. Okay, how many ghosts show up in the Christmas Carol?
5.
Do you want us to? Are we just shouting out now, Matt?
Jot them down. We'll do the shout out
Okay.
afterwards. We've got time. Got to make that half an hour last. All right. In which modern day country was St. Nicholas born? Move my camera over there.
Did anyone watch QI last night? That one?
Yep. Where do you think the question came from, Anna? But that can go in my quiz. Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting, actually. Yeah.
It was.
In Home Alone, where are the McAllisters heading for Christmas? Oh, Joe's here. Why can't I have it? There we are. Okay, number 4. In which country did eggnog originate? Again, I didn't know that. The joy of doing the quiz is that I don't have to know. Which Christmas song contains the lyric, everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way? Hey, Joe, by the way, nice to see you. I knew you'd make it in one guise or another, even if it was for 3 minutes. I was like, she'll show up. We've got you on mute or your sound ain't working. Can't hear you.
Is that working now?
It is. Gotcha.
Yay! Sorry, everything got the better of me today, guys. Sorry,
Don't
I'm
worry,
late.
it's Christmas week. We were saying at the beginning that it hasn't been quiet for anybody. So I'm just grateful that people have come along today. Number 6, which one of Santa's reindeer has the same name as another holiday mascot? Mascot was a bit of an odd term. Something associated with something else on another. You'll get it. It'll make sense. If you don't, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's not my fault, but someone told me before I came on today I had to wear a Christmas hat, and it turns out I haven't got one anywhere in the house. So victory. 7, which country started the tradition of putting up a Christmas tree? I think Emma potentially wins it for most festive looking. However, Natalie's tree looks great. So
Oh, thank you.
I like Hazel's background. Andrew's got the lights going though, and that took some work. 8, what is Spanish for Merry Christmas? Number 9, visions of which food danced in children's heads? I don't know, I've capitalized children's. As they slept in twas the night before Christmas. It's a good job I have to read this, isn't it? Goodness me, that's awful. And who has ADHD and put this together 20 minutes before we're due to start. Hey! Nothing like a deadline. See some nods there. And finally, in what year did Rage Against the Machine achieve Christmas number 1? Best Christmas moment ever. Just put out there. I think it was just Fight X Factor or whatever it was, if that helps. Was it X Factor at the time, or was it Britain's Got Talent?
Yeah.
I don't remember which one. It was one of the things, wasn't it? Right. Answer time. So, how many ghosts show up in the Christmas Carol? What have we got, guys and girls?
4.
I had 4, but someone said 5. What was the 5th? Is there a 5th?
I might have made it up.
Depends if you're going with the Muppets Christmas
Muppet
Carol.
Christmas
Yeah.
Carol.
Yeah, the Muppets had, goodness me, they went all out. But yes, 4, 4, 4, 4. 2, in what modern day country was St. Nicholas born? Anybody but Anna for this.
Turkey.
It was Turkey, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, QI, for that one. In Home Alone, where are the McAllisters heading for Christmas?
Paris.
Paris.
Oh, I didn't know that. Not Scooby. I think I've only seen Home Alone once. It's terrible, isn't it? In what country did eggnog originate?
Was it Germany?
Completely
Apparently
guessed
it's-
Norway.
Apparently it's
No?
England.
Sweden.
Oh,
Oh,
Apparently we made it up. So there you go. Apparently we invented eggnog, which seems now it's just a big American thing, isn't it? But yeah, apparently we invented eggnog. Which Christmas song contains the lyric "Everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way"?
rocking around the Christmas tree. Is that it?
Yes, Joe. Thank you for the. It would have been pretty bad if you'd sung the wrong song, but well played, Joe.
Wouldn't be the first time.
6. Which one of Santa's reindeer has the same name as another holiday mascot?
Cupid.
Cupid. Nicely done.
Mm,
Yeah, couldn't it? 7. Which country started the tradition of putting up a Christmas tree?
was that
Germany.
Germany?
That
Germany.
was Germany. That was
I
Germany.
thought it was Queen Victoria. Oh, it's because of Germany, because she was married to a
Yeah.
German.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You're half there, Joe. But yeah, it was Germany. Let's bring a tree inside and watch it slowly die for a few weeks. But hey, we love it. Sorry, that's a bit morbid, wasn't it? What is Spanish for Merry Christmas? Joey, you going to sing again?
Feliz Navidad.
There we go. No, I can count on you. Feliz Navidad, indeed. 9. Visions of which food danced in children's heads as they slept in 'Twas the Night Before Christmas?
The plums.
Sugar plums. Turns out we've got some Christmas whiz kids in this room. Well played. In what year did Rage Against the Machine achieve Christmas #1?
2011, I guessed.
Bearing in mind, I think 1995 was about a couple of years ago. I guessed it's 2019, but I've really lost track of time.
Any more?
I was a year after, so 2012.
Where's 2010?
2009.
Wow.
There you
10
go.
years ago,
Quite a
shocking.
while back. No, the
Yeah.
last few years, Anna's been that social media people, hasn't it? The
Oh, the sausage
Lad
roll.
Baby.
Yeah,
Lad Baby's
yeah,
one, haven't
Lad
they? They're
Baby.
not in it this year, I think someone said. I don't know. There we are. Congratulations to our winner. Don't know who that was, but that's fine. Again, there's the QR code if anybody wants to grab that and obviously sign up to the mailing list, etc. for next year. I'll leave that up for a few more seconds for anybody watching the recording back. But yeah, basically, I'll stop that share now so I can actually see your faces. Yay! Turns out it's far more difficult doing this when you're the one hosting the presentation. Let's move that back round before anybody can see how horrendously messy my office is. But I just want to say a massive thank you to you all, not just for today, but for everyone who's attended, for everyone who's supported it, for everyone who's shared about the roundtable over the course of the year, for all of it really, because I feel like it's been a really great year with the roundtable. I think it's obviously been brilliant to get that voice onto stuff like the CIH conference, etc. But if there are topics you'd like to see next year, if there are themes that you'd like to see come up, regardless if you want to be the one talking about it, just reach out, because that's the whole point in this group. And like I say, with what number did I say earlier? Some kind of crazy number when I was looking through the amount of people who've been on to, we had more than 1,400 people registering, and the mailing list is now 763 people. There's always a topic for someone, and we've had some amazing sessions this year that have only had 5 or 6 people on them, but it's been so powerful with what's been delivered. And actually what's interesting is those are sometimes the ones that get the most listen backs and the most watch backs, because sometimes it's a topic people don't want to come on and show that they're a part of, or it's a topic that actually they haven't got time to attend to on the day but really want to hear back on. And I've heard that a lot this year. So I'm also, if anybody's got an idea on how to make it so that I still have people register, but they don't have to individually register each week for a different Zoom link, that would be amazing, because that takes time. And I think it also it makes it difficult for people. But when you try and do a Zoom link, you have to change the name of the Zoom link every week. So that's also a challenge.
Can't you do a recurring event on Zoom, Matt?
Yeah, so that would be called the Social Housing Roundtable. But then I guess when you register for it, you wouldn't register for that individual event. Like you would just register for. So I don't know whether people want to register for the individual event itself, or whether they want to. It could be done that way. I could try it for a bit.
But if you just did it a recurring event and then you publicise what each topic was each week, I don't know.
Yeah, and then email.
I don't know, because I was going to come to you for advice, because I'm thinking of replicating what you're doing in the UK in Australia. So, because I can't thank you enough for this. It's been really And I think everyone will agree with me. It's been a fantastic effort, Matt. Absolutely fantastic effort. And it's been brilliant for the sector to be able to get together like this. Just for an hour a week on topics that need to be talked about. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I don't do praise. Thanks. It's got very uncomfortable, but no, I appreciate it. I mean, the idea, you know, when these were first set up, it was so that I could keep talking to clients and to people that I've worked with through COVID, because no one wanted to talk to me about recruitment, and I got that. And then it just developed into this amazing community, which some people really got behind. Some employers that I was working for didn't necessarily. Just seen Alison's comment there. We kept just saying, well, unemployed. So amazing to see your journey through the course of this year as well. But it's, you know, it just became this place which had such a powerful voice behind it. And people have said, well, why don't you, you know, start charging for it in XYZ? But the whole point is to get voices that don't always get to go to conferences, that don't always get their voices heard. That so many of our speakers who we've had over the course of the last 12 months have never done anything like it before in terms of presenting on the topic. And they've been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And there've been people who've gone on to the next, you know, taking that to another level, to another level, to another level. And I mean, Natalie Quilter, who I know can't be with us today, has said a few times, like, the whole thing she's doing with the Carers Network started with a handful of people in her business and it grew. But coming onto the roundtable and talk about it gave her some ideas and gave her the confidence to go, yes, this is something to run with. And now she's talked on national forums about it. And it's little things like that that make you go, well, actually, this is always going to be worth it. It is obviously a lot of time, it's a lot of whatever else, but the longer we can keep it going, the better. And it doesn't get anywhere without everybody who supports it and who uses me for their recruitment, or who just promotes it further and further afield. You know, it's grown purely on word of mouth and me hammering LinkedIn with it. So I appreciate everybody who's liked and shared what I've put out there, because otherwise we'd still be about 4 of us sat in a room going, housing's hard, isn't it? That's what's grateful.
But you know, sometimes, Matt, it's nice just to come on a forum like this and to appreciate that everybody's finding it as hard as you are. You know, because it is hard. You're right. It's if you've been in the sector long enough, well, even if you've not been in the sector long enough, your resilience can get worn down after a while. And even for someone like me who doesn't work in frontline operations anymore, I'm still dealing with people on a regular basis who do work in frontline operations, and it impacts on me vicariously, you know, vicarious trauma. And you get to the point where you're like, oh, is it? Sometimes I just feel like going on LinkedIn and saying, I can't be bothered, you know, because it just feels like that sometimes. And it's nice to come on a session like this and just realize you're not alone, and actually your contribution is worthwhile. So thank you.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And actually what was really interesting was I remember running a session with Lara Oyer-Daly. This was back in early 2022, and we did it on whether or not there's a glass ceiling for BME communities in housing. And what was really powerful from that was actually the narrative that came out often was there's not so much a glass ceiling, but there's definitely businesses which are better at encouraging EDI than others. There was a huge piece around actually so much of it is mentorship and not seeing yourself, so therefore not having confidence in interviews and things like that, particularly on interview panels. But the most powerful thing that stuck with me for, you know, since we did it was there were, I don't know, about 45, 50 people in the room. There's only myself and one other white person, which happened to be Graham Anderson at the time from Bromsgrove District Housing Trust. And yet the narrative that kept coming through was going, thank you, I thought it was just me. And that was so powerful for suddenly a huge group of people to come together. And I know groups have been formed and WhatsApp groups have come out of those, which I'm not a part of, but that have gone, actually, let's support each other and let's build a community and do something about it through something like just putting on a Zoom session for an hour on a Tuesday morning. And I think so often housing, although it's brilliant when it comes together in sessions like this to talk, there aren't enough of them. And I've said this before, but there aren't enough of them that are cost-free that people can easily attend. And those voices which we need to hear more, like tenant voices, like those who've been in the sector and left it, like those who are really trying to make change, but sometimes are just hammering against the door going, no one's listening to me. They give places of people to go, well, actually, I have got a voice that's worth listening to. And it's so important those voices aren't shut down, because unfortunately, there are too many of them. So I'm glad you got something out of it. I really am. Out of all those sessions, I'm glad that there's something good come out of it. So we start again on, when do we start? The 9th of January, which sounds ages away, but it's only about 3 weeks. Like I say, Becky Tucker is coming back on to do the risk assessment 2024. Really interesting. Just reading the point there from Joe Lund, says there's still disparity between the strategic housing teams and the planning teams in the local authority. With development
Absolutely.
projects, we're trying to offer property for framework with unquestionable support, but we go to the planning and they just knock them back. It could be worth exploring. Brilliant. Would love to. Let's get it onto the roundtable next year. I'll get it jotted down. So what I jotted down there was your name rather than what the topic was. That would have been great, wouldn't it? But like I said, start again the 9th of January. Please feel free to share this far and wide. That is what is making the difference. You know, people say to me, how do we make a difference when we come onto the roundtable? You know, if I brought a topic, what do I do? Just let people know and invite people along, and it'll grow and grow. But for now, a very happy Christmas to you all. That tinsel will stay up through the Christmas break. So that is Christmas Eve. I'm gonna get my jumper got way too warm. But just a massive thank you to everybody. It genuinely has meant a lot. So I hope the Christmas and New Year break, if you're getting it, is wonderful for you all. If you know people are on their own, please reach out to them. Don't let anybody kind of sit alone over this period, because it can be utterly miserable. We all remember what it's like during COVID. So if you do know people on their own, please reach out. But for now, happy Christmas, everybody, and thank you for everything over the course of this year. It's meant a lot. So cheers.
Happy Christmas,
Thank
Matt.
you,
Cheers.
Matt.
Christmas.
Christmas, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Matt. Bye.